Now that the boys have gone on a well-deserved break for the Christmas holidays, we thought the final video we'd share with you for the end of the year would be answering some of the questions you were kind enough to send in. Hi, I'm Kurt from AusArmour, and welcome to Workshop Wednesday.
How deep is the water?
How deep is the water? It wasn't so bad until I went downstairs to check on the shooting gallery and broke the bung for the drain, and then all the water came back in. As you can see from the photos, there was quite a bit of water there and it was all my fault, but luckily it didn't damage anything. Okay, Daryl, what happened to your tooth?
Playing footy, I got elbowed in the mouth, and the tooth died and hung on for 40 years and then just gave up.
Oh, that's pretty good. You got a bit of mileage out of it anyway.
Yeah, got a bit of mileage out of it. Can't complain.
What's your work or trade history?
First time regiment for 12 years, so I was actually crewman on the Leopard.
I'm a carpenter by trade. Where I did my trade in a mining town in the Northern Territory, I had to learn how to use lathes, milling machines, weld and oxycut. So when I came here, I'd remembered just enough to get by and just picked it up again.
Oh, an old broken down plumber.
Well, I'm a boilermaker by trade. I did my apprenticeship in Cairns at a local fabrication shop where we built trays and truck bodies. And then after that I did fire sprinkler fabricating and fitting and that for a bit before I got a job here.
My work history is here. My trade is boilermaker.
Where did you work before here?
Coles.
Is Curtis's full-time job filming and editing?
Most of the time I spend here is spent filming and editing. Usually I'll film the boys during the day and edit into the night. Outside of that, I also do some asset management for the owner.
How hard is it to find and import the tanks?
A lot of the times they find us. The owner's contacts usually reach out to him if anything comes up. Yeah, we don't usually have to look too hard. Sometimes we're looking on Millweb. There's a lot of Facebook groups that we're a part of. Once you're sort of in it for a while, you start to get to know all the little places you can find things. Would you consider yourself a tank nerd?
Usually only with the stuff that I'm working on at the time. I tend to research them quite a lot. Still nerd at the moment, yeah. Until the next vehicle, then I'll be a KV1 nerd.
A tank nerd? Oh, yeah, maybe. Well, you're involved with them every day, aren't you?
Nah, not really.
No?
I'm more into guns and ammunition.
After spending 12 years in the First Armour Regiment with Leopards, coming to here, Disneyland on steroids.
Like I like tanks now, though I do a lot of research in that, but I wouldn't say I'm up there as a tank nerd. I just know a little bit.
What's one armoured vehicle that you'd like to see added to the collection?
Another big tiger.
Well, we're getting it now, the 221.
ZSU 23-4.
I've always liked the British Comets.
I can't think of anything. First thing I thought it was King Tiger.
Any plans on a King Tiger?
Okay, I think it was the first Grant episode, we went up to our storage facility. I showed a part of a rear deck of a King Tiger and I jokingly said, we'll restore one of these soon, but there's no way that is happening unless a miracle happens, a miracle find, and we manage to get our hands on everything we need for it. At the moment, we've only got that rear deck plate. There's no way we could make a King Tiger. Sorry. How many tanks in total and roughly how many run?
Well over 100 tanks and over about 65% of them still run.
Do you have to declare to the government or council when you acquire a new tank?
About 10 or 11 years ago, when I first started at the museum and was working out the process for actually being able to import tanks and military vehicles into the country, I had a lot of interesting phone calls with those government departments, and it was a real headache at first, but now we've got a lot of contacts, everyone knows what we do. The process is very much streamlined these days. Does the museum have a maximum capacity?
Well, we're sitting at about, I think, 8,500 square metres on the roof. So for maximum capacity, I don't think we've reached it yet.
How many tanks are scheduled for restoration?
Right at this very minute, we've got the Stug 3, the Panzer 1 and the 221 armoured car in the works. We can only do a few at a time, but at the moment there's about between 15 and 20, I think, in the pipeline. Any chance of getting an M10, M18 Jumbo or Easy 8 into the collection?
Well, I think they're on the owner's list.
The Hmel. If all we need is final drives, why haven't we done it?
Because we don't have the final drives. Suspension's all there, so obviously the Hmel is part of Panzer 3 drive sprocket. Panzer IV running gear. So our suspension is there, but it's the drive line inside, so the transmission, the engine that we need to get for that one.
When will we get the Go restoration?
That is definitely in the pipeline. Everything for it is basically there. They're a really rare little vehicle. I'm not quite sure where it is in the restoration schedule. Probably say in the next 2 to 3 years. Do you have original running gear to get a Sentinel running?
Well, the Sentinel has all its original running gear, has virtually the whole drive line in there, so that's more of just an automotive restoration for that one. So hopefully, fingers crossed, one of my favourite vehicles, will get that running sometime in the near future.
When will the YAG Panther be running?
Oh God, who knows? Who knows? I guess I think that will be maybe way down the track. The YAG Panther. I think that more the Tiger is more priority.
Do we plan on making the Tiger 1 a runner?
Yes, we do. We plan on making the Tiger 1 a runner. So in another 6 years when the one behind me is done, we're planning to have this done mid next year, hopefully. And after that, I think it's KV1. Will be a pretty big project, but it shouldn't be super long because it's not going to be a running vehicle. We'll still be waiting on a lot of parts for the Tiger. Yeah, that could be another 2 to 3 years away.
Do you know what engine we're thinking of putting in it?
We can't get a HL210 or a HL230. They're just too hard to come by, too expensive and unreliable. They're not really the best thing to be reusing again, unfortunately. Although they do sound good and it would be an original engine, I think what we're planning on doing is putting a modern diesel engine in, but it has to be something with enough torque to be able to move such a large tank. I think we're leaning towards the MTU-10, like what's in the Leopard one. And if we can't source one of those, then we do have I think it's a V10 diesel, 18 litre motor. I'm just not sure if that's going to be quite big enough. It'll move it along, but I just don't know. I just think it might be underpowered.
Any plans to get the M4A1 Sherman running?
Yes, that is in the restoration pipeline as well. Inside is completely stripped out. It's going to be a really big project to do up, but we're really pushing to start looking for parts and all the different pieces we need to get that one going, because that's going to be spectacular. That'll be a really good little restoration.
Will we try to get all the different types of German vehicles?
I think we pretty much have them all. It's always the German stuff that is the most popular. It's very highly sought after. It's also very rare. If anything comes up, the owner is usually pretty keen to have a crack at getting it and bringing it here. Of all the projects coming up, what are you most excited for?
Any Stugs that we may be doing in the future.
Cromwell's one that I'm waiting for, so that's a D-Day +1 veteran, so I'd be really happy to see that one.
There's a lot in the pipeline, but just currently it'd be definitely Panzer 1.
Yeah, this one we're doing here now, this 221.
Where does all the money come from?
It comes from one man. He started collecting armoured vehicles about 10, 11, 12 years ago. He made the museum a bit of a retirement project. Why does Darryl wear those shorts?
Good question. I'm yet to find out that answer myself.
I think it's because of the heat, I don't know, because he was a carpenter, but there's no way I'd wear short shorts with what we do.
To feel the breeze between his knees, I think.
Chippy's wears short shorts, and actually he's an Aussie rules player, so they wear short shorts.
I've always worn shorts. Being an old carpenter, you know, in the territory out in the sun, can't wear long pants, mate.
Is the Russia-Ukraine war affecting supply parts?
Yeah, there's a few aspects to that. Firstly, all the sanctions on Russian military equipment have made it very expensive to bring in Russian gear. We just brought in our T-34-76, and at the last minute we were hit with an exorbitant tax because it was a Russian vehicle, even though it was from early 1940s. That felt like a bit of a low blow from the government, to be honest, especially because we're a museum. Because the Ukraine was so flat, there was a lot of manoeuvre warfare there in World War II, and a lot of our parts for our German vehicles have come out of the Ukraine. It's going to make it really difficult to actually find World War II armour using metal detectors now, because sites where there were tank battles in World War II have now been contaminated with modern equipment. Another thing that we didn't expect was the scarcity of parts for our modern running vehicles. As an example, our Leopard 1 has had a bit of trouble at AusArmour Fest, and trying to find parts for a Leopard 1 has become really tough. It definitely has affected a lot of things with the operations here. Easiest and hardest tank you've restored?
No tank is easy to restore. Hardest so far is the Grant. Those road wheels and that, getting all the suspension working again, that was pretty hard.
Oh, the Kerbal wagon wasn't too hard. It was just time consuming, and it was all sheet metal, so we could bend it all up, and yeah, it was probably one of the easier ones. Yeah.
None of them have been easy. They've all been hard. One of the hardest we've worked on was the M3 Stuart. I remember that being a nightmare to work on. The stub axles were all stuck so bad that we couldn't get them out. The plate was all riveted. We couldn't get any of the rivets out. That was a massive job.
Easiest. I don't think any of them are easy to restore. Probably say one of the field guns would probably be easier. The hardest one to get running would have been probably the Grant.
What nationality of armoured vehicle is the easiest to work on or maintain, in your opinion?
I'd have to say the German. Yeah, German engineering.
We worked on a Grant tank recently, and everybody goes on about German engineering, but American engineering, they're on a par, I believe. German's probably over-engineered stuff, but the American stuff is just as good, so it's a hard one to say.
Easiest probably being Russian, and then probably American after that. They were just built simple, whereas German stuff's very complex. Engineering is just like incredible, but very hard to fix if it does break.
It's hard. I'd probably say the German stuff would be probably easier to work with.
If you wanted to do a transmission on a Sherman, about 2 hours. If you want to do a transmission on one of these Panthers, 8 hours.
I don't really rebuild them or maintain them, but just from what I've been able to observe, the German stuff has all been made in such a fine and precise way that it tends to come apart quite easily. But then again, to rebuild it, there's usually a lot of components that are really specialised and really tricky to replicate. The Americans, they have really well-engineered parts, but their tanks are built a lot more simple. The Russian stuff is also very simply put together, but the quality of the parts is not usually as good. Any projects you would have done differently in hindsight?
Maybe the Kerbal wagon, because it's so flexible, we could have put a chassis under it. Yeah, we could have made a box section up underneath the floor and tacked it on, but it seems to be all right now.
Everything before the Tiger.
Oh, really?
Certain things. There's a few earlier things that we did work on that I look back at and I think I could have done that a lot better now, but it is what it is. We did the mud guards on the Valentine and they weren't very flash. That was the first tank that I actually worked on.
So far we had no issues, we managed to get through them, so I don't think there is really. I think for our little workshop here we don't do too bad, so I'm quite happy with how everything goes.
Every project that I've done, I've probably grown. When we first started with the Panzer IV-E, I might have done things different, especially the J. The Panzer IV-J was a massive build. Maybe now, with my knowledge in that, maybe it might have been a bit slower. I might have maybe approached things a bit different, I guess.
What is your favourite exhibit?
Favourite exhibit is the Panzer IV-D.
Favourite exhibit would have to be the Stug 3A, or anything Stug Panzer III with short barrel and painted in Panzer Grey.
Panzer IV-J.
Got the two, so obviously the Leopard, the Australian variant, and the Australian cruiser tank.
I really like the Gepard. The roar of the Gepard driving around at the back.
Daryl, do we do any live fire demonstrations?
Unfortunately not. I live in Australia and I'm not allowed to play with guns.
What's your favourite Toy Story movie?
Favourite Toy Story movie? 2.
I don't know. 1? I don't know.
Toy Story movie. I'm not a movie person.
Toy Story, number 1 for sure.
Toy Story, what's that?
Don't have one. This is my Toy Story.
How can you make the museum more interesting for the ladies?
More interesting for the ladies?
For the ladies.
Have some pink tanks.
Maybe have a cocktail bar or something, I'm not sure.
Well, I think a lot of the ladies that come here are quite amazed at what we have.
Well, I put the ladies into 3 categories. One that'll do the dump and run out the front. Second one will sit in the cafe and let the husband go nuts. And the third one is one that'll come in not knowing what to expect, but will come out just absolutely fascinated by it all.
How can people contribute to the work we do here?
By coming and visiting the museum, going for shoots at the shooting gallery downstairs, coming to AusArmour Fest is really big for us, and also just watching and enjoying the content that we make that helps us out a lot.
Do you sell AusArmour merch?
Why, yes, we do. That's all we have time for today. On behalf of the crew at AusArmour, we want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll be starting Workshop Wednesdays back up around mid-January, so until then, I'm Kurt from AusArmour, and I'll see you on the next one.